Hoop fans all across community. Check in, never know who you'll see. Subscribe and like, you know the deal. Real life on Mike Johnny Mills.
I'm calling Easy G. That's his new name.
Easy G.
The game comes easy to him. You know, it wasn't that easy for me. You know, he goes out. The game's just so smooth. You know, this generation's different.
Mm-hmm.
Like for him,
Easy G.
Easy G. That's
Easy G.
Yeah.
Just the three letters too. That could be cool.
Yeah, Easy
That could
G.
be cool. You got to get that on Instagram.
Yeah, I told him that. You know, I just thought about that when he was coming over here.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, it's a great way to start the show. My guest today, we have royalty as far as Seattle basketball goes in here. The last name Ladd has never appeared on the podcast as far as I'm aware. But welcome, G Ladd, G Mix.
G Ladd, yeah, G Mix, G Ladd, yeah, that's me.
We have Easy G also. Shout out to him for coming.
Yeah,
the youngest to appear in the podcast studio so far. So big welcome to him, and welcome to you, man. Thanks for coming.
Man, appreciate it, man. Like we just talked about briefly. My life has been, it's everybody's life's a chapter book. Mine's been chapters, and basketball was a chapter that was long ago. But I always loved the game, so I'm always a part of the game. I've always grew up rooted into the game, so I told myself, I'm in my 40s now, why not talk about the past?
Yeah, it's
something I kind of never really talked about when it came to myself in basketball. So
I'm excited to get into it. I've been peeking your Instagram and seeing you kind of getting back into it.
Yeah,
you're like, all right, these cones are out here. I'm gonna get me some. Let's do this.
Yeah, I got a little guy, so I gotta there's all these trainers these days. So we're not like I'm not like no new school trainer. I'm like an old school trainer. So we're part double rims, get
outside.
some cones out. Yeah, we're getting that real old school grind in, man.
That's awesome. Yeah. It's great to see. What I want to start with is just the legendary Ladd name. And if you can help explain to me and some of the listeners out there, the history in the Seattle basketball scene and just Seattle in general with your family.
Well, man, how it evolved, and this is like, now it's 4 generations at this point, but my dad is, pretty much the pioneer, who was a great athlete, great basketball player, moved from Texas at a young age to Portland, grew up most of his childhood, his whole life in Portland until he became a collegiate athlete and was a basketball star in the city of Portland. The PIL Hall of Fame, still to this day hold records in the PIL and the Portland Basketball Hall of Fame, and and that's just a testament to how great he was back in the 60s, so
and this is Gary Ladd
Senior, my dad.
Okay.
Yeah, that was my dad. He was the guy, a great guy, and so he started it, and then he was offered a full ride scholarship to Arizona State, so he ended up, ironically, where we are now, in Arizona. He ended up coming to Arizona first. Full ride to Arizona State. They drove down in the car,
It's a long drive.
Exactly. My dad, my mom, they got married young, had 2 little baby girls and a couple other relatives, drove down, set up shop here at Arizona State, full ride. He's going to play here.
Wow.
Then he got a call from one of his good friend, the coach that coached at Seattle University, and said, hey, if you come to Seattle, I'll give your wife a full ride scholarship too. And, her college we paid for, and that we want you that bad.
Wow.
We'll give you a lifetime scholarship.
Wow.
So he ended up, packing up.
He must have been a player.
Oh, yeah.
Man.
Oh, yeah. They had an article. He was like Nate Robinson before Nate Robinson, just, 46-inch vertical. He can shoot. He can jump up the gym. He was a gifted athlete, man. He was blessed, so, and then it's overall great guy, So, and that happened. That's how we ended up in Seattle. And the rest is history, man. We've been there ever since.
Wow. That's crazy. That's here. There's a connection here. I feel like in general, like you said, some of the people you work with, a lot of them are from Seattle, being down here. So it's interesting, even back then, so tell me what it was like growing up with a dad like that, with the history he had as an athlete and, being well known, things of that sort.
When you're a kid, you hear a lot of older people come up to you and say how good your dad was in basketball. But, to me as a kid, I'm like, that's my dad. Like that guy, he can still shoot. He's always able to shoot. He was older, so you didn't really get to understand the magnitude of the impact that he had on these guys' lives, man, that, when you're a kid, but you knew that he was really good because everybody knew him, and as far as the game translated down to the kids is we were basketball, I mean, when I say we were basketball, he trained us, 6 a.m. we're up, we're jumping around chairs, we're playing every day, we're shooting 500 makes a day, we're like, he challenges you, I bet you can't get down and give me 50 push-ups. Let me see you do 50. Yeah. You can't do 50. I can do 50. You can't do 50. You bet you can't touch that ceiling. So he was always challenging you. He was always raising the bar for you to succeed. And I love that, and I do it to my son till this day. I do the same thing, so it's a blessing, man. It's just a testament to who he was. And he didn't just do it to us, to me and my brothers and the kids that are in our family, but he did to the kids in the neighborhood. He always took them all in, took them under their wings, and they became part of the family, and that was just who he was. That was just his DNA. That was just his fabric, man. Just a real, genuine guy, So I was blessed to be even raised by somebody like that.
Yeah, the charisma even shows there with attracting other people to want to work with him. But for you as a kid, it was something you were naturally gravitating towards. Like enjoyed those interactions, those little challenges.
I loved it.
Like that.
I loved it. He knew it. So I loved it, man. That was like, okay, I got to show him I can do it. I got to prove to him I can do it. And he knew it too, so he would always keep challenging you from different things. Even as like 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, 11 years old. Not realizing after about 11 or 12 years old, not realizing I done did over 5,000 push-ups. I was just counting the 20 he had me doing, So, yeah, man, he was just a one-of-a-kind guy, I'm not sure if Jamal talked to you about him, but, he's like a father figure to him. Jamal's like a son to him. He loved Jamal. We grew up together from babies, and he just had a special place in his heart and vice versa, and that's just, he's family, So, it's just, the guy was special, his spirit is still present, even though he's gone, you can see it in just a lot of things that we do as a family, a lot of things that people that were impacted by him do, a lot of people giving back in the community where, he was a guy who always gave back, so he left a mark, in the Seattle community, man, even in the barbershop world, one of the first black barbers in Seattle, bought young guys in. They worked in the shop, but he taught them how to create their own business, and become shop owners and business owners. So, that's a testament to who he is and teaching people how to fish versus giving them fish,
Right.
So great guy, man.
That's a powerful statement because if I had to describe one thing to people, if they asked me about the Seattle basketball scene, you could say, Jamal Crawford, DeJounte Murray, this name. But what I would talk about more is them giving back in the community aspect and them pulling people up, and so for you to say, that's, was that a big personality trait of your dad?
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's what he did. Even growing up, we never just lived with us in the house. The Ladd family was a big family, but people thought it was bigger than what it was because we always had extended family living with us. He always brought them in. So we always had cousins, uncles, or just people staying with us at one point in time because that's just who they are. My mom and dad, mom's an angel too. That's a testament to who they are. It's the wraparound support of not just the intermediate kids, but the extended family as well, and I couldn't ask for any better parents, to be raised by any better people, so they did a great job. When he left this earth, his job was done. His job was done, I must say.
Wow. When did you realize that it was something special? Because you grow up in it, this is just life to you. When did you realize he was something special as a person? And then, his impact on people too.
I started to realize it, he had a heart attack at age 50, and that was like a big deal, I'm like, wow, he had a heart attack. My dad had a heart attack. Like, he's 50. I talked to him that morning. He said he wasn't feeling well, but he was still running every day. He was youthful. He just had a bad heart, a bad ticker, like he would say. And at age 50, he had a heart attack, and he went to the hospital. And literally, when I say literally, it was bananas. I mean, the nurses and everybody were like, it is, who are you? they came in and were like, who is it? Who are you? We want to know who you are. And everybody's like, why? It's like, because it has been an unbelievable amount of people calling for you, coming up here. The weight room's not big enough. There's people sending letters or sending flowers. We got people calling from all over the country for you. Mm-hmm. Who are you? And that dawned on me, and I was in college at Central Washington at the time. Like, this is the impact that he had on people all around the country, And then so when he fell and was dealing with, a health issue, a health crisis, people were taken back and wanted to be there for him and wanted to support him and prayed for him. And that prayer was powerful because he ended up living 16 more years after having a major heart attack. That goes to show you how much of a soldier he was too. But that shows you how many lives he touched and how the impact he had on so many different lives. It's just, he always had a smile on his face, just always just a great guy. Always sees the glass half full versus half empty, and that's just, who he was, a special person.
Wow. Is there any part of him that you think you carry on most? How many siblings do you have?
I have 6 siblings.
6 siblings. Okay. Yeah. So there's a lot of him, personality wise and who he was, mannerisms, things like that spread out through you guys. But what do you carry forward most?
From what people would tell me is they say, you look like your dad, man. You sound like your dad when you say that, but I think, what I carry most is just, to me, he had an undeniable ability to have faith, and I have the same faith, he will walk into something without having to be able to see it if it works and have faith that it's going to work and still try it. I'm the same way, you don't have to have evidence to see something to work. His faith was never shaken. It was always, it's going to work because I believe it's going to work. He believed in himself. He believed in the spiritual walk. And I think I got that down. I wouldn't even be here if I didn't have that trait of his, So that's something I got in him. I'm here talking to you. We're both in Arizona. We both made leaps of faith. Yeah. And now we're here. And I think that's something I really picked up that sticks out to me is jumping out of my comfort zone. A lot of people like to stay in their comfort zone. They're scared to leave their comfort zone because they don't know what's out there. Not realizing that, it's big rewards outside of your comfort zone if you go out there and take that leap of faith, and that's something I picked up from him,
Can you remember any particular time with him, like seeing a lesson in real time or understanding something powerful in real time, moments with him that stick out when I ask that question?
As far as just life in general?
Life in general, yeah. Could be basketball, could be, life.
There's so many, man. There's so many, and I can just start off by just telling you, even from a basketball standpoint, like I tell my son, he'll come down, and he's good at work, and he'll be like, man, are you ready to work? It's dark. It's 6 a.m. I'll be like, man, let's do it. He'd be like, and I'd be like, oh, I'm fine getting it. He'd be like, man, well, I'm going to tell you, man, there's some kid in Brooklyn right now, and he's up, and he's working while you sleeping. He's working while you sleeping. And I would have my mind thinking, like, I can see a kid actually working in Brooklyn in my mind, putting the work in with his dad. So I jump up and let's go do it. Let's go get it in. We run hills, we run stairs. But just to go, and he would run them with us, he would get it in with us. He was playing with us. He was training. We weren't no trainers back then. He was training people before training was in, before all these scientific, analytical, he was just doing it,
Before Instagram.
Yeah, he wasn't doing it. Yeah, wasn't that around, that was just him, and the one thing I learned about that was he was always consistent. He always got up, he always ran, he always worked out every single day. He got up and he was always consistent. And that made me do the same thing, with my son now, and it's tough because the generation is different. They got so many distractions, but those traits and those lessons that he taught me are instilled in me. So I always got to stay on my son and let him know that, this is, if you do this work now, it will pay off for you in the long run. And the trick is to do it when you don't feel like doing it. And I just told him, 75%, 80% of the work that you do in life, period, you're going to have to do it when you don't feel like doing it. So master that. Master putting the work in when you don't feel like doing it, and life will be a whole lot easier for you.
Right. Yeah, it's the battle with yourself.
There you go. It's your worst enemy.
Absolutely. Yep. I've lived it. I've seen it.
Oh yeah.
So, Wow. So we'll talk more about him, sure, as the podcast goes through. But what was the Seattle basketball scene to you growing up?
To me, the Seattle basketball scene, Seattle basketball has always been, and I wouldn't even just say just Seattle, the Northwest period. Right. I would have to put, because I have so many roots in Portland. Portland and Seattle has always been an elite basketball scene. I would say probably per capita, Seattle's probably could possibly be the best basketball scene in the country per capita. We just didn't get the recognition until the 2000s.
Right.
I was pre-recognition. I was pre-cameras, pre-videos, pre-uploads, pre-streams. We played in the era that wasn't on TV. So the only way you can see Seattle basketball at its finest in that time is you have to be there.
Wow.
And Seattle basketball in the 90s is probably some of the most impactful basketball that you will see in the history of Seattle basketball, because it set the table for that next generation in the 2000s to come and make a big impact nationwide, worldwide. And I say that because we, at that time, Seattle had a D1 player, especially in Metro League, probably 1 to 2 D1 players, and probably every single team in Metro could have played varsity. Could have made a D1 team. They could have made a Division I team, almost every single team in Metro. We got looks at that time, Jason Terry, Doug Wren, myself, Anthony Lewis, Jason Robbins, Jimmy Haywood, of course, Jamal, he came back, and we'll talk about that. My brother Gary Ladd, Roselle Ellis, Damian Crump, Milton Wright. These are guys that all played in this Metro League over that span of the 90s. Lavelle Brown, Brian Boston, Jerry Boston. It just keeps going and going and going. And there's just, that list just keeps going and going and going. Tommy Mitchell, it just keeps going, So you got to think about all these names I just named. These guys all could have been top D1 players, but the exposure wasn't there. Seattle was always glanced at, but it wasn't looked at, So Lute Olson, he knew about Seattle. Ernie Kent, you had certain coaches that knew about Seattle. They would pluck one guy here and there, but they might have knew about the guy at Franklin. They might have knew about the guy at Garfield. They might have knew about the guy at Rainier Beach, but they didn't know about that amazing guy out at Ingram. They didn't know about that real good guy, Taiwan Steel, that played at Nathan Hill. They didn't know about that guy, Chris Robinson, that transferred from ODA Nathan Hill, that could have played D1. A big D1. I'm talking about major D1s. They didn't know about some of these guys, So it was just. But we're all honored. I'm sure they are too, to be able to usher in that next wave of exposure. And Jamal and Doug Wren are really pivotal when it comes to that door being kicked in with AAU basketball at that time, being strictly select. So guys are just getting selected here and there. The top players, and they only select one. And all those guys I named could have played AAU for sure. We could have built our own AAU team. But it was just a business model that was getting started at that time,
Interesting. And so just the rise in internet and social media has helped that, shine a light on that. Yes. It's kind of what you're saying.
It did. I remember playing AAU. We won state championship my sophomore year back-to-back. Jason Terry, Lute Olson was on him. He signed with Arizona. He was gone. I was next coming up in Franklin, so it was my team now. I felt like, okay, my turn. My guy JT got it. I'm following his footsteps. I'm next. I knew it. I said, I had no doubt I'm making it. This is what I do. I work out. I train every day. This is what we do. The only thing that can stop me is an injury. I'm not getting hurt.
So your dad was Nate Robinson before Nate Robinson.
Yeah.
Who are you?
I would probably say I was I kind of fit that bill too. I fit that bill too.
In that same essence.
There you go. Yeah, okay. I fit that bill too. Yeah. The same essence at that time before I broke my leg,
So take me to Franklin with Jason Terry. What do you remember most about your experience there, playing with Jason Terry and things of that sort?
Playing with Jason Terry was really good for me because he was a workaholic, and he created and showed me how to put the work in. We had a coach named Ron Drayton, shout out to JT, Ron Drayton, all my Quakers, all you guys. Ron Drayton was a strict coach. He was like Major Payne. You know, he was a strict coach. You know, you have to have your uniforms a certain way. You have to wear ties on game day. You have to be at study hall by a certain time. We ran. At that time, you know, I'm like, man, I come from Rainier Beach. I'm like, what is this? I got to do a lot of running, man. You know, we're trying to play basketball. We're not trying to try out for the track team. We're trying to do the marathon.
What is this?
But it paid off, you know, and that work ethic was instilled in every single last one of us, and you know, and it made it easier when you go to the next level. And playing with JT, he was a great example of consistency and putting the work in. And just having the consistency, putting the work in. He'd be like, gee, we got to get up 8 a.m. You got to put the work in early, go to St. Joe's, get it out the way, and you got the rest of the day to relax. I tell my son that right now. You know, you put the work in early, you get up, put the work in, get your shots made, get your work in, and you're good, you know. And and Ron Drayton was a pivotal person in all of our lives when it came to the work ethic, when it came to having, you know, to challenging yourself, to push yourself beyond the level of tiredness, beyond the, you know, the mental fatigue, and to keep going and go through that break through that brick wall when you're tired. Ron Drayton was special when it came to that. And the younger generation, you know, things changed, and parents didn't like that, you know, not everybody could take it. They started complaining, and, you know, guys like that kind of, you know, just didn't work with the new generation, you know. But he was a great coach, man, you know.
What lessons do you think you took out of playing basketball at that time that you apply to life later on?
I think it's just the consistency, you know, just putting the work in. If you see something, finish it out and do it, you know. Just don't quit, you know. Keep putting the work in until you achieve your goal, you know. And ultimately, you know, life's about winning, you know. But there's losses. You can't win without losing, you know. And when you win, you feel good because, you know, you put the work in and you achieve something that you worked so hard for, you know. I mean, we won state in high school. We won state, you know, but we worked hard for it, you know. We probably weren't the best athletic team in state. Well, maybe, I'm not sure, but we worked hard. We could outwork anybody. We knew we were in the best shape in high school. And Franklin, I was probably the best shape of my life, you know, at that time, as much running we did. You know, everybody said that, you know. My boy Anthony Lewis, who was a freshman at the time, he was one of the top freshmen in the country, you know, coming in Franklin. And he was in tip-top shape. You know, he was like, man, he's getting us in shape, you know, and he did, you know, because I was new there. You know, JT and them was already there. Tommy Mitchell was there. Those guys were already accustomed to this gauntlet of a workout, you know. So a lot of kids would come to Franklin and transfer out because, you know, if you can take Ron Drayton's program, you can take anybody's program, you know. I mean, because he made sure that his program was going to be harder than any other program out there, even in college. You know, he made sure of that. So, you know, the Quakers are going to be in the best shape. Oh, yeah. What is Rainier Beach? What are the other schools going to be known for at that time? At that time, Rainier Beach was Mike Bethea had just took over at that a couple years before that, 1 or 2 years. Yeah, about a year before that, because I was there the year he took over. So they were still kind of building. They were still trying to, you know, find their footing. But Rainier Beach always have talent. They're always competitive. They're always top in the state. They were never a bad team. Rainier Beach is even before the championships rolled in with Mike, even when Mike was there his first year, even before Mike came, when Francis was there, they were always competitive. You know, they were always top in the state. You know, so Rainier Beach has always been at the cream of the crop. Garfield, of course, you know, that was more of an inner city school. So they're legendary, known to be, you know, up there. You know, I mean, those schools are always going to be up there to this day. I mean, no matter what, they're going to be at the top. You know, those 3 schools are going to be at the top, you know. And where did the G-Mix nickname come from? I had to throw this question in somewhere here. The G-Mix nickname, where did that come from? Who gave you that? Do you remember the origins of that? The G-Mix nickname came from Jamal. You know, Maul. He gave me that nickname. You know, I like to mix it up. You know, he like G-Mix. You know, I like to mix it up a little bit. You know, especially on the hoop court. I guess. You know, I like to mix it up, you know. I like to put them in a mix, you know. So
in the blender.
Yeah, put him in the blender, you know. So G Mixed Up, that's his name. He called me, you know. A couple other guys called me that. My guy Will called me G Mix, you know. You know, they call me G Mix. That's a funny one. That's my guy.
That's,
you know?
stuck.
So that's stuck.
That's stuck.
Yeah. The mixer, you know, G Mix. That's me. Yeah, that's me. That's my guys, man. I love them dudes.
And Jamal gave me a heads up that you would have some great childhood stories of his. You know, you talked about growing up together. Type of deal.
Oh yeah.
What are some things that come to mind?
You know, me and Jamal, you know, we as kids we played basketball a lot. You know, back then, you know, we played in the basement of our old house. We would take these socks, wrap them up with duct tape, you know, till they're hard, to where if you hit something like a rock almost. Take the hanger, put it in the hoop, and dunk it, shoot it, play. That was what we did. You know what I mean? We were kids, you know, so, but that was so fun to us. You know, this is before we even had real basketball. You know, we had real basketballs, but that was fun. The hanger hoop.
In the house.
Oh, in the house.
Man, I had the oatmeal container hollowed out, taped up.
That's all we did, Jeremy. We just, you know, we had a good time doing that. And Jamal was always a lover of the game of basketball. You know, as a kid, I mean, my dad would be like, he's going to be a pro. You know, and we were like small kids. You know, my dad was like, man, he's going to be a pro. Watch. He's going to be a pro. He's going to make it to the NBA. He would say that, you know, like literally, he was the only one that would literally say that as we were small childs. You know, he always did. He said, man, he's going to be a pro. He knew it, you know, he really knew it, you know, as a kid, he knew it. And me and Jamal, we would, even as we got older, we always stayed in contact. We've always were close, you know, just as personally, you know, that was my guy, you know, that was, you know, we're from 2-3 years old, you know, that was my guy, you know, so, I mean, he's like my brother, you know, so when we were small children, you got to think about it. We're just kids, you know, we're not, you know, like, oh man, I'm gonna go to the NBA. We just playing, you know, we're just kids playing, you know what I'm saying? You know, his mom dropped him off. Oh yeah, let's do it. Yeah. Let's go here. Let's go there. You know, he had all the Jordans. His mom made sure she kept him crisp with some J's, you know. I'm like, where you got them crisp J's? Oh, he kept them, you know.
Back in the day, even.
Back in the day, okay. You know, where he had the crisp.
That's hilarious to me because I'll see him wearing the same pair of shoes the whole summer. The crossover now is, I'm just like, he was rocking the Jordans back in the day.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, he got a sneaky stash in there.
Okay, you know, sneaky stash.
He got a sneaky stash. He ain't just, you know, he ain't got a closet with just one pair of shoes. Yeah. You know?
We're getting the truth today. We're getting the truth today. He
got some shoes. He got some heat. You know, he got some heat.
Yeah. Is it funny to see him now doing the things he's done over the course of his career? You know, seeing him, you know, it's even funny for me to see him on TV sometimes. He's just so normal. You know, he's just such a, he blends in with anyone else in the Seattle basketball community. At
first it was, like when he started, like when he moved, so we can go back to where when we were kids, he moved away in 8th grade, and it was always like, it'd be like, Jamal moved, he had to go to California, like, oh man, what? So he left, and you look back on it in hindsight, 2020 is a blessing that he left, because we're going to go back to how Seattle basketball went from being glanced at to stared at, to all eyes on Seattle basketball in the state of Washington. Jamal left, Seattle was getting glanced at. Guys like Jason Terry would get scholarships. We had coaches looking at us just from the AAU perspective. We would travel around the country. Some coaches would see us, teams would see us. They would like certain players, and they were like, man, they got some pretty good talent up there. We would hang out in Circus during the summertime. And I met some guys from Brooklyn, USA, and they was like, man, you guys from New York too? I'm like, no, we from Seattle. I was like, man, y'all be balling though. You guys ain't from New York? Like, no, we from Seattle. They're like, whoa. So I knew at that point, like, okay, we on the map now. At this time, I'm like just one state, so I'm confident. Like, we on the map now, but we still didn't get the recognition like we deserve. So my junior year, I broke my leg, so didn't play my junior year. Played a little bit, broke my leg, freak accident, Franklin versus Garfield game, but that's, neither here nor there. Accidents happen, life goes on, Right. I couldn't sit here and just, dwell on it. Let's just keep it moving. Let's just see what we can do, rehab, and try to just salvage what we got of a career left and keep playing, I remember being at home one day, going into my senior year, and my mom was like, somebody's here to see you. And I go upstairs and it's Jamal. He's sitting there, him and his sister Lori on the couch. I'm like, man, what? I'm going crazy. Like, man, look. He gave me a hug. He's all time like, man, look at you. Man. I'm like, man, what happened, man? What you got? Some stilts on? He was like, man, you got to see me play. He just got back in town, I'm like, for real? He's like, he came back. He's like, man, I had to get out of here. Man. He's like, you got to see me play, man. I was like, well, we going to play. This is what we're going to do. We're going to go this weekend. We're going to go play at South Shore. He's like, all right, let's do it, man. And I was like, where you at? He's like, I'm in Rainier Beach. I'm like, oh, man, I'm at Franklin. Come play with me. So that's how all that started because, I'm like, come play with me. So we got me, Jimmy Hayward, we got Anthony Lewis. I'm telling them, we got the freshmen, AJ Sloan, we got Jason Robbins, we got Will Hendricks. Like, we got a squad. You come here, man, ain't nobody going to be. We had the best team in the history. He's like, yeah, I'm going to do it. So I told the coach about him. And the coach actually somehow got him into the school, and Jamal came to the practice. And I didn't realize the impact that he had on basketball in LA before he got there. He was telling me, man, I got a whole bunch of letters. I got boxes of letters, man. Letters from all over. So I went to his house and he showed me all these letters from UCLA, USC. I'm like, man, what are you doing down there? And he was like, man, I was just hooping.
Because he was, when he had left, he was good, but not.
Yeah, he got taller. He's always been good, but he got taller. Polished his game up, and he got on the circuit and, exposure. People can see you play. He's playing Baron Davis every day. And he's the first person that told me about Baron Davis. He was like, man, you got to see this guy named Baron Davis, man. He's cold. He was like, man, if you played in LA, man, you would be a star, man. You got more exposure, more recognition down there. I'm like, for real? He's like, yeah. So he came to practice one day at Franklin. I kid you not. It was probably about, I've never seen that many college coaches come to our practice. We would have Ludos in here maybe. I think John Thompson came before. You have certain few coaches that will come in. You got Byron Boudreaux. You got a couple of coaches coming in here and there. Leroy Washington from Oregon State. That's why with them, I verbally committed to them. But when Jamal came, it was coaches lined up in there. And I remember one of the coaches was saying, we were looking for Jamal. We were wondering where he went. We heard he moved to Seattle. So they all followed him to Seattle. So what I'm saying is throughout the 90s, we always had talent. We always had players that were really good, that can play D1, that just didn't get the looks or have the exposure. Doug bought a lot of exposure there too that same summer. Jamal came back that next summer and bought even more of it and kicked that door open. And then you saw all these coaches are able to see not just Jamal, but man, they got a whole bunch of ballers up here. Wow, this is this is the pick of the litter, And Jamal was he was there. It was written for him, But he is pivotal in kicking open that door and letting all these coaches come in and able to pick who they can see, who they can sign, who they can look at. And you fast forward till today, you see guys signing with Kentucky.
Yeah, you
see guys signing with Duke.
Yeah.
You see guys signing with big universities from these same exact schools that we all went to. And then you throw in the AAU part of it, which is a big business now. The exposure's still there. Seattle Rotary was Seattle Styles. We were part of that first team. Dan Finkley and Daryl Hennings was like, man, we're going to start the AAU. We're going to get Seattle Rotary. We're going to Seattle Styles. We went to a practice at Garfield. I'm like, let's do it, But some funding things happened, so we didn't get to play that year, and it still started up later on. But it happened because everybody was going to be committed to those guys at Seattle Styles and Seattle Rotary no matter what, because they're inner city. So we had to disperse and play for Friends of Hoop, Seattle Nike. We didn't want to, but we had to, just to get the exposure and experience, So today, Seattle was built off those generations that came before, the 70s, 80s, the 90s. And then boom, explosion. So it didn't just happen overnight. Yeah.
Man, that is some serious history.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And to even see the way it happened was something up Jamal's sleeve as he's, gone later on, or up Gary Ladd Sr.'s sleeve, something that he couldn't even really control. But him coming back there, like you said, it opened the door for everybody else, and that's built on that.
It did. I saw it.
And everything's been built.
I saw it with my own eyes. I saw these coaches say, we've been looking for him. We heard he moved to Seattle. These coaches were coming in droves. Even when I was in junior college at Highline, Michigan coach came to see him. He came to junior college. He came to the open gym at Michigan. True story. Balled. We balled. I balled. The Michigan coach was like, man, who was that? He was like, that's my cousin. He was like, man, I like him. Like, he's nice, you know. But they ended up signing another guard, Gaines. I forget his first name. Jamal knows. They ended up signing him, but he was like, man, he's nice. Like, you guys got ballers up here, you know. And it was just, we always had ballers, you know. It just, we never had the maximum exposure that we're finally getting in the 2000s and up to now, you know. We just never really had it. I mean, you got to think about it. We didn't have you couldn't stream no game. Our state game wasn't even on TV, you know. Wow. And then 2 years later, it's televised, you know. Wow. You know, so things change, you know. It evolved, and it evolved for the better for this generation now.
So, you know, you explaining all of that makes me wonder your perspective on things happening now. Like you say, these guys committing to Duke, Kentucky, Cincinnati's no small feat, you know, and things like that. All of that is huge. And so what do you see with that?
What these guys committing to these big schools, I think the circuit, you know, helps a lot now because coaches are going to already know that Seattle got talent, you know. So this year, who do they have from Seattle that's balling, you know? Who does Seattle Rotary have? Who do these teams have that we can watch? You know, it's not just saying, who's this team? Man, you guys stand for the Rotary game? Nah, I don't know who they are, man. Me neither. We're going to check out. They know to stay and watch these guys to see who they got and what talent they have. And then once they see them on that circuit, they just go right back to the Northwest. They just follow them to their high school season, and they can see them playing at Franklin or Rainier Beach or Eastside Catholic, Garfield. You know, they can see Coach Roy. You know, they can see Mike Padilla. They can go in there and they can walk into these gyms and see these guys that were cultivated for all of these generations before without even knowing it. And, you know, and now there you go. You know, you're signed. I'm committed. I'm signing here. I'm committed. You know, this is a table that's been getting set for so long, you know.
So a lot leading up to it.
Yeah, a lot leading up to it. A lot of sacrifices made by guys who played the game for years. You know, I mean, you got to think about Seattle got so many talented dudes who just never was even afforded the opportunity of a scholarship, the wraparound support for academic support, you know, to get them to pass SATs because they didn't even have the exposure. They didn't have the knowledge to even know that they can go there. They didn't have the knowledge to know that I can play D1. You know, you would get guys here and there that make it, and you see them on TV like, oh, he's from Seattle, Washington. Or they wouldn't say, it'd be like, he's from Washington, you know.
Like Washington, D.C.?
Yeah. You wouldn't even, and there's nothing that they're really attaching that to. Just he's from Washington. Oh, okay. Right. And not realizing that there's a whole hotbed of ballers up in Washington, you know. And it's just, you know, like you had Quincy on here, Quincy Wilder, one of the best to ever do it out of Washington. One of the best, you know, Jamal. You know, I mean, think about it. You got guys, and that's just two guys who had who lives, they're like this on the trajectory when it comes to the game of basketball. One went this way, one went that way, but they're both still great guys right here, you know, you know, just still special individuals, special beings that's still giving back to this day. And even though they paths went two totally different separate ways, genuine dudes giving back to this day, you know.
Like you said, they're both right there. Giving back right now.
Came back.
They had different paths, but like both incredible people. Both
great people, man.
I'm so lucky to have a podcast, to have a reason to talk to both of them and you and hear all these stories and things like that. So take me through, you break your leg your junior year of high school. You committed before that?
I had verbal to Oregon State before that. You know, and back then, being young, you're not really, you know, like I said, you know, Oregon State, you know, they would send me a bunch of articles with Gary Payton and all that. And I was like, man, I want to go like UCLA. I'm trying to get, you know, but, you know, Oregon State was Oregon State. You know, it's Corvallis. You know, I still went in for a recruiting trip. Verbal there, broke my leg, and they taught me a lesson, though, about life, you know, because Leroy Washington, and I forget the other coach, they came to see me after I broke my leg. I was trying to, I never forget. They were like, coach was like, Gabe, you know, the Oregon State's coach here. And I was on crutches. I'm trying to hide. I went down I took the elevator down to the weight room and the wrestling room in the back. And then we would go and stretch in the back before we do conditioning. And I was trying to hide, you know, I didn't want them to see me on crutches, you know, and they're like, you know, we came up here and they pulled me in the hallway. I'm like, come out. I'm like, They're like, we had to see it to believe it. You know, they said, you know, we had to come see it to believe it. They said, you know, and they told me, and that was the first time Leroy Washington, he said, man, you know, they got to, you know, and you learn a lot, you know. They said, this is what you call in sports, you know, as coaches, and, you know, like right now, this is what you went through. You know, technology is different. Surgery is totally different nowadays. But at that time, it was like, boom. You know, they were like, you're what you call damaged goods, you know. And that always stuck to me when he said, you're, you know, damaged goods, you know. It always stuck to me, you know. And I was like, whoa, like, you know, I'm damaged goods. Ended up losing my scholarship to a guy named Dino Tanner out of California, you know. And it's ironic because years later, in early 2000s, my junior college coach, Joe Calero, coached at SU. He had an assistant there. And I was at the Franklin game sitting in the crowd. And he was like, what's your name? I'm like, Gabe. He's like, are you Gabe Ladd? I'm like, yeah. He was like, that's crazy. He's like, I coached in California. He was like, man, you know Dino Tanner? I said, yeah. He was like, that was one of my players. He was like, man, you broke your leg, huh? I said, yeah. He said, he said, that's crazy because when you broke your leg, we had a party. We celebrated because Dino was able to get a scholarship, you know. So that's how God works, man. It's life, you know. It's life design, you know. So, but you know, you know, those are all moves that happen for a reason that shapes the universe, you know. So,
how much of you understood that at the time? That, you know,
when I broke it,
yeah, like that's because, you know, you're obviously going on a different path at that point, one way or another.
At the time, you know, my dad, I had the surgery, and my dad was like, probably at the time, it seemed like it was a really good thing because I came back in 8 months and played my senior year. I had broke my patella bone, the tendon, everything. Kneecap was up, my quad.
Oh.
Ended up coming back and playing. My senior year, I was on a minute restriction I was trying to get a scholarship, so I only could play 10 to 12 minutes a game. I rushed it. There you go. That's how you know how things are different because I could have, not should have, but I was ready to get out of high school, but I could have got a fifth year. I could have sat out and just rehabbed and got my leg really, really strong, not played, and got a fifth year and played a full season, you know, in 1998. But, you know, I would have to stay another year in high school. And I just ended up leaving, meeting with Joe Calero. They came to my house, bought me in, said, we want you at the Highline. We got Quincy Wilder. We got Brian Scalabrine. We got Reggie Ball, my cousin Reggie Ball, who's another great player from O'Day. Him and Doug Wren was like Gary Payton and Sean Kemp. That's what I'm saying. We got so many ballers, man, coming out of there. Reg was just great. You know, he was one of the best to do it, man. And I ended up playing with them. Ended up winning some championships there, man. You know, so it was a blessing.
Yeah, I can remember Quincy Wilder when I asked him about that. What do you remember about Highline? He's like, man, winning championships. I can remember just the way he said it too.
So I'll be honest with you. Highline, you know, was probably junior college was probably some of the funnest times in my life with those guys. You know, the camaraderie. Just the battles. We packed gyms, you know, we packed sell out gyms. The dome was sold out. Everybody. And the reason why I loved it because everybody came to see us lose. You know? So that just makes you want to win. Everybody was coming to see you lose. Like, are they going to lose to these guys? They were bringing guys in from Cali. They were paying guys from Cali to come on here and try to beat us. You know, they never beat us. You know? It just didn't happen.
Man.
Yeah.
So from your perspective, like, tell me about Quincy as a player, because I didn't get to see him, unfortunately, but I just hear like the way you describe him and the way Jamal describes him, and so many different people that reached out to me.
Man, Quincy, man, he was, you know, when we were in high school, we were rivals, you know, because we went from Franklin, right before I broke my leg, we went from 3A to 4A. So we had a fall league and we were battling with Decatur. We were battling with these guys all fall league. You know, we had a 5-game series to win a fall league championship. And I think we ended up winning it 3 games to 2. But I never forget this one. I knew Quincy was a special talent because, you know, I'm from South Seattle. I'm like, these guys from Federal Way. You know, hey, man, come on, Ant. I'm telling my boy Ant Lewis, man, forget these dudes, man. I'm telling my team, let's go, man. These guys from Federal Way, man. Who are these cats? You know, and Q never wavered. You know, he was still just, you know, I'm Q Dog. I'm like, man, who Q Dog? You know, I'm like, man, who are you? You know, he never wavered. You know, I never forget. He got a steal. My boy Ant Lewis was coming up and he stole it and they caught a foul. And everybody's going crazy. And Quincy's like, and he still proceeded the other way to make the layup. I thought it was going to be a layup. But he windmilled it and 360'd it and threw it. I was like, oh my God. I told Ant, I said, hey, don't let him get no fast breaks. This dude can jump, you know. Don't let him get no fast breaks, you know, for real. You know, so at that point, I'm like, oh yeah, we're gonna see these guys in state. These are our rivals. We're gonna see, but I ended up breaking my leg. So it was an honor to be able to play with them. because he had the whole Federal Way on lock, man. I mean, we go in the store at Quincy, they're like giving them stuff off the shelves,
Wow.
give whatever you guys want. And he was like Michael Jordan out there. They had signs at the game, pictures of him before that was even in, big signs, Q dog, Q time, everywhere you go. Like, it was like, I was like, man, what do you do to these people out here in Federal Way in Tacoma? But he was that good. Yeah. I mean, he was a pro. He was a pro, and I could say that without stuttering. He was a pro. And the thing about Quincy was he can catch fire, he catch fire, have 30 in one half, and he was a rebound. His vertical was just probably 50 because he can go straight up and he had long arms, pull it down, pump fake, the guy jump, he go right back. And I could just throw a lob anywhere to him. It can be bad lob. I come down and just throw it up. I'm like, dang, bad lob. He still catch it. That was just, he was just that athletic and that freakish, I mean, I would say his game is like, me and Jamal was talking and he was like, what do you think? I said, Quincy is probably like a cross between, to me, Baron Davis and kind of a Dwayne Wade mix, you know what I'm saying? Just those two guys, but he didn't emphasize the pass or the point. He was more of a scorer, and he could score at will, and I think that was sort of the thing when he went to USC. They tried to make him be a point, and that traditionally ain't who he is. You got to let a guy like Quincy just go, let him score, let him get you points, let him just do his thing, and he's going to get it done,
Wow, that'd be a crazy locker room, crazy experience, crazy, crazy time.
We had some fun times, man.
So you mentioned Reggie Ball, your cousin.
Yeah.
You were close growing up?
Oh, yeah. We was
all
close
the time.
Too. He's right. Oh, yeah. He's like my brother. Reggie's like my brother, man. One of the best to do it. Shout out Reg, Hey, Reg, we gotta make it remember who we are, man. Reg's one of the best to do it, man. Played at Portland State. Another guy from the inner city, played Metro and big games against Garfield. We have a game somewhere else. If I'm reading the paper that night or getting a phone call, like, oh yeah, they just played Garfield. Reg and them beat them by one. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, they won. That games be packed, because he played at O'Day, and people like Highline. People wanted to see O'Day lose, and they were really good. Phil Lumpkin was a really great coach. Jojo Rodriguez, a really good coach. We had really great coaches that were really hard-nosed old school coaches, back then. So. We were blessed, man, to be able to set the table for the next generation that came through.
And playing with him, was there a certain chemistry that you can create with somebody like that you couldn't create with another person? Yeah,
me and him were just, come on, man. We couldn't nobody get the ball up court on us. We pride ourselves on defense, me, him, and Quincy, and we had something. And Todd Watts, a guy named Todd Watts from Washougal, Washington, who was a great player. We had a really, really good team. Probably everybody on that junior college team could play D1, that team really don't get a lot of recognition, a lot of credit, you can really do a story on that team. Everybody on that team were D1 players. Literally, we had something, so we would full court press, and we would call it 211, robbery in progress. That was our thing, We would just yell out 211. Almost every time we yell at 211, we're getting steals, we were so good that, they had something where they were like, you guys should play UW, you guys. So they set up an unofficial game. People don't know about this, but they set up an unofficial game, us against the University of Washington. And we had to play out, and the game was played out, was it Olympia or somewhere? Olympia. So they had Dan Dickow and Mike Johnson and all those guys. So they set that game up, us against them, out there, and so it was like a neutral way out somewhere. Yeah. So we ended up playing them, and you already know what happened. It wasn't even fair.
Dream team kind of situation with the guy. Yeah, that's what happened.
Yeah. The junior college, the guys at the junior college against the University of Washington players, and it just wasn't even fair, man. So think about that. Think about all these guys in junior college beating the Division I college that's right down the mountain. Like, we're just destroying these dudes, man. That's a fact.
That's definitely not something I had heard. So that
happened. That happened. That happened. Yeah.
Wow. And then tell me how you get to Central Washington.
I went to Central, so I played Highline. Central was sort of at that time. A lot of my coaches, Joe Calero played there. Jeff Albrecht played there. Who else played there? Bucket played there. I think they all went and played there at one point in time. So it was sort of a pipeline to Central Washington. So I ended up going on a recruiting trip to University of Idaho. Coach Zek was there. I was on assignment with University of Idaho. And he was like, okay, we're going to sign you. I'm like, cool. I went to the recruiting trip, came back, and then he pretty much like going to hand deliver me to Idaho to Coach Farrar. My other buddy, Anthony Lewis, played there. And then Zach left. He went to Southern Idaho. And I was like, oh, man, he left? Like, man, that's the guy. That's the reason why I was going to go there, because of this guy, And then I got a call from Greg Sparling. My cousin Reg transferred there from Portland State. He was like, man, you should go there. You should go there. You'll love it. You'll be the guy. So I was like, all right, So I ended up packing up and going over to the east of the mountains, man, and being in Ellensburg, being an E-Bird guy, So that's how I ended up there at Central Washington, and I love it. That was like a great experience for me, man. Now you see what's happening, even the same thing at the Division II NCAA. It's mushroom. Central Washington locker rooms is huge. They're getting sponsors. It's like that division has really grown. So it was a blessing.
And then take me to your transition out of basketball and how that went and how you adapted and what you were thinking at the time.
Well, what happened was 9/11 happened. So it was like, okay, whoa, 9/11 happened. They were like, man, you can go play overseas. And I'm like, oh man, I'm in 9/11 though. Coach Calero's brother had a team overseas, and they're like, you should go play overseas. You'd be good. I'm like, man, I know, but 9/11 though. I don't know about getting these planes and stuff, So I ended up didn't go. And Jamal had just tore his ACL at the Bulls. And he called me. He's like, hey, G, man, come down here, rehab. Let's rehab. Let's work, man. I need you. I know you've been through the same thing. You had a knee injury. Come down to Chicago. Let's get it in. I'm like, man, let's do it. I'll come down there. Let's do it. So I ended up going down there working out with him. Ended up staying for his whole tenure at the Bulls. We lived together. Roommates, we grind together, we did everything, and it was a blessing because I got to see not just everything from a professional level, from the NBA level, but I got to see the business side of how everything works at the professional level. I got to see, the nuances of, the NBA player and everything that goes into it. People just see NBA player and think, okay, he just can play basketball and that's it, and he's okay. But it's a lot, it's a lot they have to go through, a lot they got to deal with. They got to keep their bodies in shape. They got to eat right. They got to deal with media. They got to do appearances. It's a lot, it's nonstop, so it takes a special person to be able to play at that level, in that world. And Jamal was one of those special people who was able to do that, and we talk about all the time, the memories we had in Chicago. In Chicago, we were young, 21, 22, I was probably in really good shape though. I was a ball. I could really play at that time though. I could still play. Jamal probably tell you this. I remember Pete Myers. That's wanted to play in the summer league. Like, you want to play in the Bulls summer league? And I was like, man. He's like, we need a guard. And I was like, nah. I didn't even want to play. I was like, I'm done. Because then I would just get souped back up again. And then it's back in that when I had already closed that book. I was just done with it, man. But I always was around the game. I loved it. Always with the Vice guys who were going to play in the game. Brandon Roy, same way. Good guy. It's my guy. Even him as a young age, I tried to advise him. I told him, you're going to be a pro. You're going to make it, man. You're going to make it. So I try to encourage guys to keep being optimistic and seeing the glass half full and pushing themselves to make it to that next level. I had injury, but I still had wisdom and knowledge about the game, so that's how we ended up even just being where we are now today.
Such a unique opportunity to see that, like you did, the life outside of basketball of a pro up close in the same house.
Yeah.
So is there anything?
It was new for all of us. It was, being from, well, like we said, Jamal's from Seattle, Jason Terry's from Seattle, and we're from Seattle. So, we do have a level of sincerity and a level of empathy for other people, being from Seattle. We were blessed to be from Seattle. It's a great place to be raised in, versus being raised in the Cabrini Greens, which I got to see, the Icky projects where we would go in and Jamal would go in and play. So we got to see what true poverty looked like, and so it touches you. It realizes, it makes you count your blessings,
Absolutely. In the move to Arizona, we'll kind of start to wrap with that.
Yeah.
What was your experience like? Did you move from Seattle to the Valley?
Moved from Seattle. So, coached at Nathan Hill. We won the national championship. Lost my father October. I was going to coach with Brandon Roy, and my dad was like, "You should coach, man. You got." We was like, "Man, we're gonna be pretty solid. We got a good squad. We got this kid named Michael Porter Jr. He can go. His brother Jonte Porter, he can go. Jonte, what's up, Jonte? That's my guy. I love Jonte. That's my guy, man. So I'm like, man, we got a squad. We got PJ. We got a squad. We got Trey. We had my son was the ball boy. It'd be good for him. And my dad passed, and I was like, I'm not coaching. I was just like, I'm not gonna do it. I don't even have the mental capacity to do it. I don't think I can do it, so I'm not gonna coach. And then B hit me up. Coach Roy hit me up one day. I was like, "Gee, come by the house. I want to talk to you, man. See how you doing." At this time I was just in the house in the dark. We just had the funeral. Felt like I had a heavy load on my shoulders, and I'm like, "Man, I'm not coaching." So I got up, went to his house. He's like, "You should really coach, man." He's like, "My dad said he saw your dad at LA Fitness, the week before he died." He was like, he was a week before he died, and he was telling my dad, man, yeah, my son's gonna coach your son. He said, man, he was so excited. He was like pumped up about you coaching. And I was like, for real? He's like, yeah. And I think that kind of did something to me, turn my light back on, made me say, okay, let's do it. And that was the best therapy, the best grieving therapy that I could possibly have at that time, was to get lost into the game that I loved, the game that he loved, the game that we grew up playing, and able to give back to those guys and those kids that I coached at that time. That was the best therapy for me, and I thank Brandon, I thank the players, I thank all the guys that played on the team, all the assistant coaches. I thank all those guys for helping me carry through that process, because I don't know what I would have done if I wouldn't have did what I did coaching with those guys. So all those guys in that team and that journey had a special place in my heart. And I always told them at that time, I can feel my dad's presence there. And I told him, destiny is undefeated. Even when we had close games, or, even though we had great talent, destiny is undefeated. Wow. We're not losing this year because it was already written, and we won national championship, getting rings, we beat Oak Hill, beat Sierra Canyon with Marvin Bagley. All these teams are supposed to beat us, we beat them, So it was a blessing. I was able to drop some gems and jewels onto those kids, man, about life. We had a saying, this is it. You only can control this moment every day. Lock in, this is it. And those are some certain phrases that my dad passed on to me, that I passed on to them, and they still mention to me today on Instagram. This is it, coach, wow. Laughing, Wow. But it's stuck, and we created winners, man. We're champions. And you see, they still keeping it going, man, So that's how we ended up doing that. But my Romar ended up leaving UW and working with Sean Miller. My wife is she works in academics. She worked in this collegiate level academics for some years. So she worked at UW for 10 years. She was assistant director for football for 10 years for academics. And then when Romar left, I actually had a dream. I haven't really told anybody on wax about this, but I had a dream. My dad came in my dream, and I seen him stand on an embankment, right? And he's like, go there. And it was like we're in a desert. I'm like, go there. He's like, man, go there. Pointing. And it was like Arizona. And he was like, you'll live longer. This is my dream. And it seemed so real, Man. And then after that, I had a couple other little dreams from him, like, go there. We started seeing Penske trucks. And then that job popped up at University of Arizona for men's basketball. My wife was like, what'd you think? I'm like, let's go.
Wow.
It's destiny. I told you, destiny's undefeated. You got to follow destiny. You got to follow the spirit and the heart. So we ended up going, man. And then the rest is history. I got into real estate, met a great guy who passed away. He was my mentor. And April, named Bob Harrington, rest in peace, Bob, took me under his wing, showed me a lot about real estate, met some powerful people in that world. So I'm still doing it. My wife resigned from the academic world. Now we're both doing it full time with Ladd's Real Estate Group, so we're doing land acquisitions, development, purchase properties. We're representing buyers, sellers, investment properties, wholesale properties. We do it all, man. And it's been a blessing, man. That's what happens when you jump out your comfort zone and take that walk of faith, and which was actually the name of my dad's church before he passed, Walk of Faith.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Destiny's undefeated.
Destiny's undefeated, man.
There's no doubt.
There's no doubt, man. You know,
wow.
There's no doubt.
Wow. Well, I appreciate, man, everything you dropped on me. That's, I feel like, one of the most historic episodes as far as just really going back in the history and telling a story to help understand the bigger picture. And your dad sounds like such an important person to tell his story and to tell it fully. And I can't think of obviously anybody better. And not knowing him before you even said it, as I sat here and watched you talk, it was, you know, it was hopefully like seeing him and getting a little bit of an experience like that. Yeah. So
appreciate that.
Because, you know, you're a charismatic guy yourself. You make people feel good. So I can only imagine what he was like, and, you know, what your son will be like, and your everything like that. So major shout out to you for coming over and seeing the studio.
Appreciate it. It's nice. I like this setup, man. I like what you're doing, man. Keep it going, man. You know, we're here in Arizona for a reason. I like to look at it as, you know, we're a Seattle chapter in Arizona. You know,
yes,
you know,
yes.
So, you know, we're a Seattle chapter in Arizona. I met a lot of basketball players, coaches here. My son's in the circuit. I know some coaches in the circuit down in Tucson. They've got great players in the circuit up here in Phoenix. So, you know, and they know about Seattle basketball here, you know. So, you know, you say you're from Seattle, like, oh, you're from Seattle?
Wow.
Oh man, so they know about Seattle basketball. So it's a blessing, man. You know, we're just putting it out there. We're just extending the roots from Seattle basketball, man. We don't want that. We don't want that to be lost on the people who make it to the pros. It's a whole other gamut of, you know, of process that goes along with that, and people who didn't make it, who are still great impacts to the community, like Quincy Wilder. You know, so those guys are special people, man.
No doubt. People. Very special people. And you
to
said
the basketball world, especially.
Yes, absolutely. The people that give back in that, you know, I'm sure teachers feel the same way about themselves, but the people in the basketball scene that have given back and tell their story and really connect with people. Because sometimes as a kid, the teacher doesn't always connect with you. Not to say they shouldn't, but sometimes it is the coach and someone you look up to in that way. So to have those people out there impacting, I can't think of anything more worth your time. Like we talked about Jamal and Quinter at the same spot, and they're understanding that their impact is best in that. So
there you go. They're giving back. They're giving back. I mean, at the least your time, you know,
which is the most.
There you go, and your wisdom. That's priceless, man. That's priceless. Dropping gems, man. So,
yes.
You know, I mean, I know I left out a lot of names of great basketball players in the 90s and 80s. In 70s, you know, like the Garfield Super Dogs, you know, I mean, even Mike Bethea, Wayne Floyd, and Franklin. I mean, there's so many names. My dad at Seattle University, they had one of the best teams in the country at Seattle U at that time, you know, but I know I left a lot of that out, you know, but it's just so many, that's how rich the basketball culture in Seattle is. You can't name them all, you know, it's just that rich.
We'll call this episode 1.
Oh yeah.
With G Mix.
Oh yeah.
Dropping gems.
Oh yeah.
I sure appreciate it.
No problem.
The last thing I want to end with is just to give you the floor to give your shout outs, to say hello to all the people, you know, to the Seattle basketball community.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
Oh, everybody in Seattle, I love y'all, man. We're down there holding it down in Arizona. You know, it's Jamal, love you, man. B. Roy, my guy. All you guys, I love you guys. The whole coaching staff, man, I miss you guys. Keep it going. You know, just keep doing what you do, you know, impacting the lives of others, man, and impacting the life of those kids, showing them what's real, what's not, you know, and just being your authentic selves, man. You know, my nephew Naeem Ladd, who was a great player up there, my nephew Mike Ladd, you know, all the lads, mine's Unique, Najee, all my nieces and nephews, my brothers and sisters, my mom, all you guys, you know, I love you guys, and you know, keep being the impact that we were born to do, you know, in the name of our father and our mentor Gary Ladd Sr., who's just been such a pivotal person in the community to all of us. You know, it's all about giving back. It's all about the impact, man. That will last forever, like he did. You know, his funeral had over 2,000 people there, you know, from all over, you know, and that just shows you the impact that he had on individual lives, you know.
Well, I will definitely tell the story, and his name will be prominent in there anytime I tell it. So I sure appreciate it.
Yeah. Shout out to Portland, Oregon, too. I don't want to leave Portland out because he's a legend in Portland. They love him in Portland. So Portland, I love you guys. My people in Portland, I love all you guys, man. So you guys are in the same boat when it comes to that generational getting, setting it up for the next generation. They were the same way, with the names. I can just, if I go on, that's a whole nother episode. But
that might be episode 2 right there.
Yeah, Portland, Oregon. Yeah, I love you guys.
And speaking of the next generation, Easy G, you're welcome to jump in here as we send everything out. If you want to say hello to the people.
Say a word or two? This is my son, Lil G.
Next generation.
He can play a little bit.
Easy G. What did you think of the podcast today?
It was great.
It was great. No notes, nothing you would do different?
Nah, it was touching,
It was touching. Him and my dad were close. They were really close.
Is there anything you'd like to say to the people before we finish?
People back home in Seattle? What's up?
What's up? Hello. Have a great day.
Man. Wise beyond his years. I love it. And for everybody, it's the Jerry Mills Podcast. We'll see you next time.
Hoop fans all across community.